The following program was pre-recorded for broadcast at this time.
The following program is sponsored by Max Out Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, Max Out Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. Max Out Savings Advisors and members of the Max Out Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity. Prepare for your retirement. Safeguard your savings. And nurture your investments. This is the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from Max Out Savings Advisors, Ted Gioka.
Welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings, investments, and your retirement here on the show. Our show is all about building up wealth and understanding the world today. Our motto and our philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. Save aggressively and invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. And it starts out with your savings plan, with your 401k. You want to put away as much money as you can in that program. You know, we always start the program talking about this. We don't manage at Max Out Savings Advisors. We don't manage 401ks. When you retire, you have an old 401k. You want to come talk to us here in Houston. We'll sit down with you and show you how we manage funds. But in order to build up that type of wealth, you've got to start with your qualified plans, 401k, 403b, 457, these different types of plans. These plans, it's basically income-based savings, which means the check comes out of your the money goes right out of your paycheck into the plan before you spend a dime, and then from there, it goes into your plan. You get a tax deduction coming out of the plan, and from the government. And then what you do from there is you get your tax deduction. Then for the next 20 or 30 years, it grows tax free. And so this is the best program out there. Look at Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett retired here recently. He's retiring here from Berkshire Hathaway. He started that company in the 1960s. One of the first things he did is he bought an insurance company. Now, why did he buy an insurance company? Because he could take advantage of the float of and it can grow tax-free on it there. So he has a float of money. He uses it. He has tax advantages. The government gives you the program that Warren Buffett set up 30 years ago. And one of his key things, one of the things if you study Warren Buffett in his success at Berkshire Hathaway, arguably one of the most successful investors in the last 50 years, is his ability to avoid taxes. You have the same ability with your qualified plan, your 401k. You roll over your account to an IRA rollover. You get the same tax advantages. You get tax-free growth until you hit the age 73, and then you have to start taking the funds out. So remember that. Take advantage of these programs. Save aggressively and invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. So, wow, got a lot of stuff to talk about in the markets here. We're dealing with the markets. April 6th, it plunged. It came back up. The market was down nearly 15% year to date, and since then it's come back up, recovered some of the losses. I think, and so here we are. In that time frame, a whole lot has happened. Let's take a look at the situation we're dealing with today. Again, it's a very complex world today, and that's what we're trying to do is help you understand it, help you get where you need to be. The market's down here to date, unless you've been in the right stuff. And so you have to understand what's going on. Donald Trump is restructuring the United States. He's put in, as we've talked about, this phenomenal cabinet to do the job. Basically government has been rudderless for the last 4 years. China's taken advantage of it. They've moved around the world. Our borders collapsed. We got flooded with illegal immigrants. And now these immigrants are in the country. They've flooded the school systems. They've flooded the welfare systems. They've run up the price of housing. Crime has skyrocketed, and he's dealing with that. At the same time, we have a trade war. People are realizing, hey, China's our greatest adversary, and actually we haven't really had too many times. We've been, most of the time, any battles we've had, with the exception of the Korean War, really they've been on our side. They really weren't that involved in Vietnam. They were on our side in World War II, but the problem is they've managed to take over huge amounts of our manufacturing base. If you look at China's growth, once they entered the World Trade Organization in 1995, it's been straight up growth. Very little slowdown in economic growth, particularly in the 2000s, virtually no slowdown at all in China, because they keep bringing in factories, they keep growing. Well, that's come to an end. Donald Trump has said this is stopping. He's going to the rest of the world. We've reached the ridiculous point in the United States that the factories were all moved out of the United States either to cut wages or to reduce taxes. Ireland is one of the biggest manufacturing places in the world for drugs, for different types of things, because they have this ridiculous tax breaks over there. It reached the point that President Trump put 25% tariffs in place, and PepsiCo were making all their syrups for their drinks in Ireland because they could reduce their taxes. That means they didn't have any plants in the United States. I mean, they had no workers in the United States. If you look at the drug companies, many of them are domiciled in Europe, particularly in Ireland. They're producing the drugs over there. Then they come over here and sell them to us, to Americans, for $500 to $1,000 a month. The Europeans get the same drugs for $150 or $300 a month, and they're being made over there. Many of these drugs, the majority of them, were invented in the United States with the United States money from the National Institute of Health, from money that shareholders in the U.S. put into it. They were invented here, then they moved the products over there to manufacture them, to cut their costs, to take advantage of the tax advantages in Europe. And this is just unacceptable. I mean, it'd be one thing if the Europeans were paying $500 a month and $1,000 a month. You go, well, okay, I get it. They're paying more. We're paying for the drugs. We're paying for the research. We're paying for everything. And then they take the factories and move them over there, the manufacturing. And this is unacceptable. We went through COVID. We didn't have the supplies for COVID because they were all made in China. If we go to war, most of our military systems, there's parts being made in Europe and elsewhere that we might not get the advantage of. There's parts being made in China, and so this has all got to be restructured. We have to restructure our tax system. We have to restructure our tariff system. We've got to look at some of the ridiculous manufacturing rules that come in for military. It's absurd. It reached the point where Boeing was making the president's 747 Air Force One. They're now talking it's 10, 15 years, not to build a new airplane, but to refit an airplane. And some of the rules and regulations are just absurd. Some of the prices on stuff I've heard for some of the stuff in those things, I had some little bit of information. This is just extraordinary. If you look at, I talked to a good friend of mine. They have a manufacturing plant, machine tool. I'm like, look, you guys should get into more military. I'm like, Ted, we'd like to, but we're not very big. And in order to get into the military, we have to have a full quality control operation and hire all these people. We're not big enough. And then they said, the military contractors offered to send people from their plants to make sure to have a person there to help out with ours, but the government said, no, the rules say it has to be this. Well, all of that type of stuff adds up to the cost. Not only does it add up to the cost of the product, but then they can't source the products, or they go, yeah, we can get this, we can deliver it in 2027. You're like, wait, we need this in 6 months. Well, I'm sorry. So all of this just utter ridiculousness that the United States is coming to an end under Donald Trump. up until Donald Trump has come in, and this time he's really making a difference, is before the government was run for basically wealthy people manufacturing for, and the way you made money in the United States was you got exemptions from the government, you got special contracts from the government, you created a situation where you were going to be the only bidder, and they had these Byzantine rules for everything. Well, that's not the way. That's a way to build up multi-billion dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars weapon systems that go for 10 or 15, 20 years. But in time of war, it leads to abject failure in law and military defeat. And so this is the world we live in today. And you go, well, Ted, why some? Look, we have 4 wars. We have Russia, Ukraine, hot war. We have Iran and Israel, hot war for all practical purposes. They got Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen. They're eventually going to go after that. You have the India-Pakistan war, which we'll discuss in a minute. You've got, if you talk to all the military people, like, look, we're expecting we're going to have some type of military skirmish or war with China. They're saying 26, 27. That's a year or two away. That's 4 potential wars right now we're dealing with, and you have to understand the world within it. It's a changing world, and so President Trump is in here. He's negotiating these tariffs. Well, a lot of people are upset. There's a lot of concern there, and then we're dealing with out of control government spending under Joe Biden. But Joe Biden was the perfect storm of a president. You had a senile president in power, and then you had a group of radicals underneath them putting one program in after another that were just detrimental to the United States. The reason you have a president is, I mean, if you look at Jimmy Carter came in as a brilliant former naval military engineer and a submarine engineer. The guy worked tirelessly to improve the government, but it overwhelmed him. What you have to do is the position of the president is to lead the country. He can't do everything. So when someone at the defense or EPA or whatever does something that starts going completely off the rails, like the border, like we're not going to enforce our border so anyone in the United States, anywhere in the world, there's 7 billion people, they're all welcome to move into the United States. Well, maybe they want a future. Maybe they want to work hard. Maybe they just want a free ride. Maybe they just want to get free health care. We don't know. But the problem with that is if you don't have a president at the top can go when the popular starts going, this is ridiculous, this isn't working, there's nobody to stop that. And it just keeps getting worse. There was one program after another program after another program. The amount of graft and corruption and malfeasance in our government has not been seen since probably you have to go back to Roman times with Caligula, where you had a senile emperor. I mean, that's how bad it was. If you talk to the people involved, the Doge team, if you listen to what they're saying, if you talk to congressmen doing oversight, all of them are saying, wow, when we really looked into this, it was a lot worse than we thought. So the people are going, oh, this is the big problem. They looked into it like, oh, my God. So these are big, massive changes happening in the world today, and this is what we're dealing with. And so this is why the market plunged. This is why the market plunged down 15%. You know, at the start of the year, one of the worst starts of the year in a long time. So where's it going to go? Is it going to go to a new bull market? Look, candidly, wars everywhere, out of control spending, borrowing $1 trillion every 100 days, additional $1 trillion. Having $36 trillion worth of debt, that's not helping. Interest rates on the long end are going up. Well, the economy is slowing to some extent. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. In that type of world where we have wars, we have uncertainty, we have tariffs, cargo, the economy in disarray. If you talk to any major investor over the last 100 years, they'll say, oh, well, that means interest rates are going to go down. That's not what's happened. Rates have gone up. If you look at them, they're down a little bit year to date, but they've been going up. They bottomed on April 7th at 3.8% of the 10-year, but they're close to almost 4.4% right now. So they've jumped from up a half a point. That shouldn't be happening. This is kind of telegraphing, hey, How can they have? The government has to refund over refinance or borrow $7 trillion this year because we've been borrowing so much money short term. What did Joe Biden do? He had a presidential election coming up. He didn't want long term rates to go up. So Janet Yellen borrowed very short term, a lot of Treasury bills and things like that, up to 22%, which is a very high number that's rarely seen because they didn't want to push up rates. Now all that money is coming due. We have to kick it out further out. So we're dealing with very complex issues. We're dealing with rising interest rates. We're dealing with out-of-control spending. We're dealing with wars. We're dealing with tariff wars. We're dealing with hot wars. All this stuff is adding up to a situation that makes the S&P 500 very unstable. But there's opportunities and there's money to be made in this market. Now, we're going to talk about that after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
If you've got savings and investment questions, Ted Gioka has answers. Call the Max Out Savings Show now at 713-339-1070. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Stayed Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. Our motto and philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. The world is changing at a faster rate than any time in the last 50 years. The investment world has changed. Have you changed? Inflation will destroy your retirement. It is a different world that requires different strategies and ideas. The era of indexing and investing is over. If you need help, listen to the Max Out Savings Show. Our show airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. We talk about investments, the world, and where the world is going today, and help you understand it and help you save money and build up wealth. It's the Max Out Savings Show. And if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. On the website, you can sign up for the free Max Out Savings Report. Our report covers all types of these big issues, the changes in the world, and helps you understand and protect your retirement. So go to the website, maxoutsavings.com.
Once again, here's your host for the Max Out Savings Show, Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings, investments, and your retirement here on the show. And we're just talking about all these big issues in the market. Does this mean you should, go run and convert your all your funds into the money market and just leave it there, or invest in gold and put it under the the bed, so to speak? No, but I think you have to understand where we are, what's going on in the world, and be in the right things. We've talked about the precious metals, how they were going to do well. The gold mining stocks are probably the number one asset performing class so far this year. If you look at there's other sectors of the market that have done well. Some of the more stable demand, some of the foreign stocks. So there's always opportunities out there if you look for them and you find them. And so one of the things we talked about was we said stay away from the Mag 7, the Magnificent Seven. These are big mega cap stocks with $1 trillion plus, $1, 2, $3 trillion market caps, generally in the tech sector, that things are starting to work against them. And one of the things that we talked about was we talked about Google. We talked about antitrust issues with Google right now. There's an antitrust with Meta. In at the antitrust trial, it came up this week. The VP of Services for Apple, Andy Q, made some remarks about the search, and they said for the first time, search has declined than we've ever seen. Now, this is a big deal for several reasons. One of them is Google makes their money from search. In addition, Apple gets about $20 billion of revenue because the Safari, the exclusive search for Safari is Google, so they get paid about $20 billion. That's about 10-12% of their revenue. That's a big deal for Apple. And so you have the search declining, you have their payment in danger. That means things are going badly for Google search, which is their main money worker, that and YouTube. So what that's telling you, things are slowing down. What's going on there? People are using artificial intelligence. The Chat GPT, Grok. We told you we like Grok the best, and so they can pull up Grok, which you get on X or Chat GPT, and if you have a question or want some information, you type it in, and the artificial intelligence gives you the answer. It can kind of also nuance the answer for you as well. Now, if I do that on Google, I've got to wade through, a page of paid search recommendations that they have, and then I'm not sure if it's the right thing. The advertising alone, you've got to go through two or three pages of information just to get what's basically a one bit of information requested. Artificial intelligence is changing the search engine world. And what we have talked about this show for at least a decade is that these big tech companies are making a fortune stealing your data and selling it to everybody else. Your whole life is an open book, and these big tech companies have it, and they're making money selling it. And what they're doing is people are using that information they're buying from those people to get at you, to convince you to buy something, or when you're about to buy something, they're going to try to sit there and sway you in their product. Or worse, in some cases, if they know you're real interested in something, they can raise the price up based on your perceived search engine and your perceived information on what you're doing. And I mean, this is an issue everywhere. I mean, the auto company, I think the Texas is suing some of the auto companies because they're selling the data from their black boxes to the insurance companies so they can determine how much you drive or how you're driving, and then they can raise your rates. They're not going to lower them typically. They're going to raise them on you. And so all these are being used against you. So people are understanding the big changes. So the big tech companies, as we talked about them for weeks, is, look, you want to protect yourself. Well, by going with Grok, which is a politically neutral, pro-human AI versus one owned by Microsoft or someone else that's trying to take your data, you can increase your searches, but that endangers Google. That Meta, same thing. I mean, Facebook is the biggest scam the world's ever seen. I mean, candidly, I'm amazed that no one else has come up with another Facebook type of program that protects your data yet. I mean, Facebook is basically data mining every single thing you do and using it against you. They've engaged in monopoly practices. They purchased some of the other big the other big programs as well. They're dealing with antitrust too. Now, as we've talked on the show recently, what's the difference? In the past, there's been, for 25 years, there's been antitrust threats in these guys. Finally, the Republicans and the Democrats are all on the same page. In the past, the Republicans have always protected the big tech companies, but then they turned on the Republicans and the Trump people and basically made deals with the Biden administration, so they don't have the protection anymore. So we'd avoid the tech sector. To me, it doesn't make sense because the valuations are too high. The absolute valuations of $1 to $3 trillion valuations, when markets ultimately start going down, these companies are going to have massive problems. And so the Microsoft, same thing, Apple, Apple's dealing with service issues. Apple's charging people 30%, to use their systems. Well, one of the big game manufacturers this week won a big lawsuit that they shouldn't have to pay the 30%. So it endangers their their services business, and endangers also endangers their search profits from Google. So these are big issues. And if you just look at Apple, not to pick on Apple, but it's kind of the easiest one. If you look at they have a $3 trillion market cap on this company, and so this is not the way you want to be. You want to be in sectors that are going to do well. We just talked about 4 wars. Let's take a look at that. Well, we just had the India-China war. The India-Pakistan war broke out between those people over the weekend. That's been a pretty nasty war. They had 110 to 125 jets in the air in dogfights. At least 5 jets were shot down. Missiles were flying all over the place. Drones were flying all over the place. Finally, President Trump intervened and stopped it. Keep in mind, India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons. Look, can I count on the Russians to be restrained, or the Chinese? Yeah, or the Americans, or I think the French with their nuclear weapons? Yeah. Can we trust the Indians, particularly the Pakistanis, with nuclear weapons? No. That's a dangerous place to be. And it's remarkable the market didn't pay as much attention as it could, because it could have really spiraled out of control. But a couple things came out of that war. Is the Chinese weapons did pretty well. The Indians have been buying from the Americans and the Europeans. There was, I think, 3 French jets shot down, and the Chinese missile systems worked well. And so this is kind of, if you look at the American technology and the Chinese and the Russian technology has done real well. The Europeans not as well, which is, again, it puts them in a box of people. The Europeans have got to get their act together, but that's another story. But there's going to be huge demand from India, from Pakistan, from Russia, from the Ukraine, from the Europeans, from Taiwan. It's one group after the world that needs more additional weapon systems, planes. And the other thing that's happening is we're seeing it here. If some third world country like Yemen can shoot down and threaten American Reaper drones and threaten our aircraft carriers, we're going to need huge numbers of missiles, huge numbers of drones. And so it's completely reordering, the world of war. Again, these are massive changes. They're all coming at us very quickly. And so we've got the war situation. We have the situation where President Trump wants to get the factories back. He's putting the tariffs in place. Why is he doing that? 2 reasons. Number one, he wants manufacturing back in the United States to produce jobs for American workers. Number 2, to protect the defense of the United States, because too much of our critical manufacturing is moved overseas. And number 3, to create revenue, because we have $36 trillion worth of debt. We're running deficits of about 6.5% of GDP, which is absolutely unsustainable, and we need to refinance $7 trillion worth of debt this year alone. We've got to come up with the money to do it. So what's going to happen with these tariffs is those plants are going to come back to the United States. That's I was just, this isn't a plant coming back to the United States, but but these plants are coming back. The factories are coming back. We've seen drug plants coming back. We've seen chip plants coming back. We've seen AI plants coming back. We're seeing all types of plants. I was in Abilene the other day. You go look north of Abilene, there's it's just a gigantic work area going on out there. And I mean, it looks like it's 500,000 acres or something massive. I've heard 50 billion, and the number just boggles my mind. But it's at least $25 billion massive AI program they're putting up there. Why in Abilene, Texas? Because they have solar power and they have massive numbers of wind turbines all over the place that can provide cheap energy to power the AI systems. All of these things. So we've got factories coming back to the United States. The number, I've been using a number of $500 billion. Now, we just said a $50 billion factory there. I think that number is low. The factories are coming back to the United States. What did we say earlier in the show? If you look at China, they virtually did not have a recession because they had all this manufacturing and growth. If we get that in the United States, it's very bullish for us in the United States. So we have the ability to grow the economy over time. That is the strategy of Secretary Bissett. He's Treasury Secretary. He's got $36 trillion worth of debt he's got to finance, right? He's got to refinance $7 trillion. Our deficits are 6.5%. He somehow has got to create. He needs the GDP to grow so we can grow out of this deficit. That's the way they're going to do it. That's exciting. So we got factories coming back. We got huge orders for defense. Keep in mind, we've given the Ukrainians and the Israelis. I'm scared to even guess what percentage of our munitions. Those all have to be rebuilt. We need missiles. We need shells. We need all types of things that have been shot off over there that have to be replaced. Massive defense spending, massive rebuilding of manufacturing. This is all bullish. But that's not real bullish for Apple. That's not real bullish for Google. That's not real bullish for Meta. Those type of companies. That's bullish for manufacturing companies. That's bullish for metals companies, aluminum, copper, gold, lead, zinc, silver, all those type of things. Manufacturing of motors. That's bullish for those. Electrical equipment. You need electrical equipment for new manufacturing facilities. You need it for electric cars. You need it for data centers. All of these things. This is what's going to drive the country. And so what President Trump is doing is he is restructuring, he is turning around the aircraft carrier. And it takes a while to do that. But that's what we're seeing. And so we're in this world where things are very uncertain, but that's creating the opportunities. That's creating what you want going forward is companies that are going to have pricing power in the future that have the ability to control their own destiny. And that's the thing. Or they have a product that everyone in the world wants, that's not as cost sensitive. And so those are going to be the opportunities. If you remember, 6 months ago, we were talking about the ridiculous percentage of the Mag 7 was about 27% of the S&P 500. You added up the top 10 stocks in there with a couple other big ones, and it worked out to be over 30-something percent of those big mega cap stocks. None of them, not none of them, but they're not going to be the big winners of the revolution to restructure the United States. And that's going to be the key going forward. So I want you to understand there's these big issues coming up. There's big opportunity, but you've got to be in the right place. So we're going to be right back after this quick break to discuss some more of this right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka will return shortly. To speak with Ted Gioka now, call 713-339-1070. Back in a moment with the Max Out Savings Show.
This is Ted Gioka, host of the Max Out Savings Show, one of Houston's most popular financial radio shows, celebrating over a decade on the air in Houston, Texas. With stocks at record high valuations and interest rates near record lows, you need to have your guard up. You need to have a plan to manage risk to your retirement. Do you? At Max Out Savings Advisors, we have a risk-based value investing approach to your retirement. If you would like some help managing your retirement, go to maxoutsavings.com to set up an appointment. That's maxoutsavings.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com.
Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. Our motto and philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. The world is changing at a faster rate than any time in the last 50 years. The investment world has changed. Have you changed? Inflation will destroy your retirement. It is a different world that requires different strategies and ideas. The era of indexing and investing is over. If you need help, listen to the Max Out Savings Show. Our show airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. We talk about investments, the world, and where the world is going today, and help you understand it and help you save money and build up wealth. It's the Max Out Savings Show. And if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. On the website, you can sign up for the free Max Out Savings Report. Our report covers all types of these big issues, the changes in the world, and helps you understand and protect your retirement. So go to the website, maxoutsavings.com.
Hi, I'm Sam Malone, the owner of Houston's cutting-edge media company called 512 New Media. At 512 New Media, we create amazing videos that companies use on their websites, telling their story in bold colors with exciting animation and graphics. At 512 New Media, we also shoot television commercials and instructional videos. And if you want to show off your business from the air, we're ready to go with our drone video aircraft. Let us help you create your media message. We're online at 512newmedia.com or call 281-822-8803. 512 New Media is Houston's only media creation and distribution company that's actually owned by someone who's currently on the air. And that gives us an incredible edge when creating content for consumers to use on their laptops, tablets, and smartphones. Standing by to create your message, we're 512 New Media, 512newmedia.com.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Stayed Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement.
And now, more of the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We're just talking about savings, investments in your retirement. Also, we want to mention one of our sponsors, Rangoni Alto Gin, one of the world's finest botanical gins out of the Italian Alps. All organic, natural botanicals are used to put together one of the finest gins in the world. If you get a chance, try it out. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. You can get it at Specs. Look for the kingfisher bird on the label. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. Now, so where do we go from here? We're in negotiation with the Chinese. A couple thoughts. These trade deals take a lot of time and to get done. So typically, like with the British deal, it's kind of, okay, we're going to cut the tariffs back to 10%, and we're going to negotiate for the next 6 months to try to come up with a fair program. In some cases, it might be, look, we'll put a factory in and to produce half the product in the United States, and we'll bring half the product over from England. And we go, okay, well, we can deal with that. And I mean, Trump's not here to wreck all these economies. He just wants to have kind of a level playing field. And so the tougher one's going to be the. I still think Canada's going to be tough, just because they're such globalists up there with Mark Carney that it's just that and they just really want Trump to fail. But the Chinese, that's going to be the tough one. And if you look at it, China has really been moving across the world, basically taking over manufacturing everywhere. They're taking it over from the Europeans, from everywhere they can get. And it's just it's getting where they have too much capacity in their country, and they're unwilling to cut back the capacity. In the United States, if you look at it, we remember the 70s on this. There was too many either car factories, or they had to shut some of them down. Yeah, and if there's too much capacity in the industry in the United States, the companies shut down factories or go bankrupt. In China, they're so worried about keeping the employment up that they never shut down the production. And so they're going to have some steep tariffs. I was talking to someone the other day on this, and they're like, look, we're planning eventually we're going to be at 50,000 units, and if we get them, they're about $2.50 a bottle here. If we go over there, they're looking at, we can get it for maybe 80 cents a bottle or something. Even if it was like $1, then we look, maybe it would be $1 cheaper. That's $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. If you look what the Americans can make a product for, what the Europeans can make a product for, and then other developed countries, and then if you look what the Chinese can make it, they're way underneath everybody else. And one of the things that we talked about on the show years ago, we like to bring it up from time to time in the future, is China. They don't have the pollution regulations. They don't have the safety regulations. The percentage of the farmland, I want to say the number, I'll say is about 20% of the farmland in China is unusable. It's so polluted over there. Massive pollution problems. And we did a whole story on that. We did a whole story on how they're stripping the oceans of all the fish. If you go off the coast of Argentina, there's actually satellite pictures, and you go, oh, look, there's a big city down there. It's not a city at all. It's a massive, 50, 60-mile flotilla of boats lit up at night, fishing all night long, and they're doing this everywhere. And so they're going to have to be they have to be good stewards for the rest of the world. The pollution is out of control in China, and so they can come over there. Their refineries, they don't need a bunch of anti-pollution stuff on the refineries. I mean, people complain about the refineries here. Only thing that ever comes out of a refinery is steam for all practical purposes. If there's black smoke, there's some type of issue that they've got to burn off some product to stabilize the situation. They don't care over there. So they underpay their workers. They're not paying. They don't have any safety rules or regulations. The pollution alone, they did a study. It was about, I'm coming off the top of my head from at least 5-6 years ago. I want to say it was 13% subsidy because they don't have the pollution issues. So we have to put on some serious tariffs. So it's going to be kind of a battle to deal with China. And so what we're likely to do is come up with some type of framework over the weekend. Now, one of the problems I see with the negotiations is that many of a lot of the commentators are all out there going, look, if this doesn't go well, the stock market's going to plunge, Monday. And the Chinese and the Americans broke for lunch, and all of a sudden Twitter lights up about the Chinese walked out on the meetings, and so there's a lot of pressure. And one thing you have to be willing to take hits in the investment markets and not be afraid of it, to make the tough decisions to make the Chinese stick to it. And one of the ways that the Chinese, they know if they can panic our markets, then they can sit there and get a better deal. And so we're going to have to, be tough on that and hold on to it. This is why we think we're going to see a lot of chop in the market. We don't. I think we're nearer to a peak in here. I think we're going to go back and retest. We still have to come up with a a tax bill. And one of the things that's coming out on the tax bills is they're talking about like a 2% increase in taxes for wealthy people making over $2.5 million a year. And now the only reason that could be coming up is because Trump made some promises to no tax on tips, possibly no tax on Social Security. They want to raise the SALT deduction, which is your interest on your home, which is limited now, and it really hurts the people in the Northeast and California. And so they want to keep the Trump tax cuts that are set to expire by the end of the year that he put in place 4 years ago. And at the same time, he wants to put in some tax breaks to help working people in the country, because they are going to get hit with some extent with these tariffs. And what this is, they were counting on a couple things. They were counting on lower interest rates. That hasn't happened yet. They were counting also on big cuts from DOGE. That's coming through. But it's telling us they need more income. And so I think this tax bill, which is going to be coming up in June, July timeframe, is going to be very contentious. And at the same time, they're going to have we have to raise the debt limit. Well, as soon as this starts coming out, every Democrat out there is going to be talking about we're going to be downgraded real quickly, and they're going to try to panic the market. So again, choppy market. So what do you do in this type of world? As we said, you diversify your assets. You do a higher level of diversification than in a normal world. I can come up with a lot of bad scenarios happening. I can come up with some really good scenarios happening, but in that environment, and it's very complex. And long-term listeners of this show know that we constantly and continually come up with try to get everyone ahead of these big trends. So when the global financial crisis strikes in 2008, you're hearing about it in 2007 from us and what's going to happen. Yeah, the same thing, with the COVID, in either late January or the first week in February, we were all over the radio talking about how bad this was going to be. And every doctor in the country every doctor I talked to said it was no big deal. So, but right now it's very complex. So you have to spread. Because, why is it complex? Because of wars, because of out of control government spending, because of tariff issues, because of moving manufacturing back to the United States. It's one thing after another. The restructuring of the United States, bringing in AI, all of these things are big change. So you spread your risk further out. We talked about Warren Buffett in the show earlier today. Warren Buffett has over $350 billion in cash. That's about 23% of his. I think either his stock portfolio or his total asset. I think it's his stock portfolio. One of the two. Actually, I think it might be of his assets. He has an enormous amount of cash on the balance sheet. And so with cash right now, you get about 3.8 or something, 4% in the money market right now. You're collecting interest, and if the markets plunge or something happens, it gives you the optionality to change up, to restructure your investment portfolio without having to sell everything that's down to buy something else that's a really good opportunity. So higher levels of cash. That's what the smart money has now. That's what they're doing. They're not all in the S&P 500. You also look at overseas stocks. Overseas markets have outperformed the American companies. If you look at it on a valuation basis, there was no comparison. We bought one of the overseas, the European food groups. We've done phenomenally well this year. We bought it at the beginning of the year. The market plunged, and we're up. Because it was stable demand. It was in Europe, which is where people are moving money out of the United States. So further spread the risk. Look, let's be realistic. Over the last 15 years, international has done poorly compared to the United States because no one has been able to keep up with Apple, Amazon, and Google in the Magnificent Seven. That's come to an end. So now you're going to see a reversion to the mean. In the United States, and it's going to more opportunity overseas. As we talked about commodities, that's another. Commodities are under-owned around the world. right now. If you look at the commodity companies, the valuations on them are not that big at all. And let me see something here. Stick with me just 1 second. Let me see if I can pull this up. Now, I was just wanting to pull up the valuations of some of the precious metal sectors. Compare theirs right there. If you look at a Newmont Mining, it has a market capitalization of $60 billion. If you look at Apple, it's $3 trillion. Now, they're not apples and apples, so to speak, difference, but it's about 5% of the market cap of Apple. I mean, and so it's actually less than that now that I look at it, but it's you're looking at minuscule value. Same with Barrick Mining, which is copper and gold, $33 billion. That's 1/100th of Apple, so they're way undervalued. Precious metals, same type of thing. These are the opportunities. Spread your shorter-term bonds. Remember, long-term rates are going up here. So there's opportunities, but you've got to spread your risk. It's a different world. If you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. And you can sign up for our free newsletter. But you can also request an appointment with us, and we'll sit down with you and show you how we manage money in Houston, Texas, using our value investing approach to the stock and bond markets. It's a completely free review of your retirement situation. We'll tell you how you're set and go over the program. So if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. At a minimum, sign up for the free newsletter as well. And again, that's a completely free. We don't bother you. We don't call you. It's a private list. So anyway, but coming up here on the end of the show, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And remember our motto in philosophy, which is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. Save aggressively, invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. Don't let these movements in the market scare you out of your savings program. Keep putting away the money. Keep conservatively investing it, and you'll have a happy and successful retirement. We'll see you next week right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
This has been the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Join us next Saturday at 10 a.m. for the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka on AM 1070. The Answer.